A lot of people in the Fortnite community don't care about the patch notes, or they just don't bother to read them. As such, some of the changes go unnoticed to a majority of the population. That is, until they notice the changes themselves in the game. So the Epic developers made a massive change to the game with their most recent update, but I don't hear many people talking about it. The change I'm referring to is the nerf to rockets. According to the official patch notes, the maximum number of unloaded rocket ammo that can be held by a single player has been changed to 12. That's it. 12 unloaded rockets. In addition, they nerfed the reload speed of all the RPGs. The blue rare RPG went from 2.3 up to 2.8 seconds. The purple epic went from 2.185 to 2.66 seconds, and the gold legendary went from 2.07 to 2.52 seconds. So all of these are pretty significant. But back to the topic at hand, which is the 12 rocket capacity we now have. So for the RPG, you can now have 13 rockets. That's 1 in the chamber of the RPG itself and 12 rockets in reserve. For the grenade launcher, you're now limited to 18. That's 6 in the chamber and 12 in reserve. Now just to show you that this is definitely in effect already, watch here as I have a grenade launcher with 17 rockets in total. I wasn't aware of the nerf during this gameplay, so after I walked over the rockets and saw that it only went to 18, I second guessed that I even walked over them at all. I checked to make sure it was fully loaded and then hovered over the rockets. As you can see, it says I can't hold any more of this item. And there was a whopping 11 rockets sitting there that I just couldn't pick up since I was maxed at 18. Which again was 6 in the chamber and the max 12 in reserve. So let's talk about this change. I'll be showcasing some older footage from before the nerf for a bit, so just be aware that this is definitely older gameplay here. Now I'm sure that prior to this nerf to the rockets, most of you encountered one of two scenarios. The first scenario being a squad of enemies spamming launchers at you, or maybe even a squad spamming double grenade launchers at you. It was virtually impossible to defend against, and you likely died as a result. Now the second scenario would be in solos. You might have found yourself at the endgame with a power position and a boatload of rockets. Now how fair is it that you have 50 plus rockets and the high ground on your enemy? It was virtually a guaranteed win. Even if you missed half your rockets, with 50 of them and non-stop spamming, you're bound to at least land one. Now is it fun to continually spam 50 plus rockets in the endgame till the opponent runs out of materials? Of course, yes. Was it fun to spam 8 clips of your grenade launcher at a guy until one sneaks through and kills him? I'd say yes here as well. But we've all been in the other guy's shoes where you're constantly building just to try and stay alive. So before the Loot Llama nerf that excluded rockets entirely, it was incredibly easy to get quite a lot of rockets after every kill. Just as an example of my own gameplay, watch here as I take this enemy out with my RPG. Note that I already had over 40 rockets at my disposal. After killing him, I quite literally doubled my supply, and I was now at 80 rockets. 80 rockets with a gold RPG. If you can't win a match with that arsenal, you probably should rethink your gaming career. And for the record, I did win that particular match, but not because of the rocket spam. The guy accidentally killed himself. Now in those games where you did find yourself with the high ground and the massive supply of rockets, what exactly were you supposed to do? Build down to the person and engage them with shotguns? No, you try and get the win any way you can. I can't tell you how many comments I got on my own videos where people were outraged that I won the game using an RPG or a grenade launcher. It's comments like those that got the rocket ammo nerfed in the first place. Now after playing on this update for a fair amount of time, I definitely feel like it was a very needed nerf. Now during the endgames, I'm seeing more rockets left behind in fights because people already have the max amount of 12. This allows for a more fair fight since most enemies will now have 12 rockets at their disposal instead of a lopsided amount for a more skilled player. And I'm just trying to perceive this from a developer's standpoint. You just have to use your rocket ammo strategically now rather than spamming it. 3 clips on the grenade launcher is more than enough to even kill a full squad if you use it right. Now I guess it was a bit odd that there was a cap of 10 items on regular grenades, but people could walk around casually with an arsenal of 60 plus rockets. So one of the biggest ripple effects to this rocket ammo nerf is the massive buff a few other items receive. 2 such items are the minigun and C4. With the recent adjustments to the minigun, which were more dropped ammo, more damage dealt against structures, as well as the removal of drop-off entirely to structures, the developers are clearly trying to make it an endgame weapon. I can only assume their data showed its lack of use, which was probably why it got buffed in the first place. I think Fortnite is slowly becoming a game where all items and weapons have a shot in your inventory and are balanced, which is definitely good and rewards good decision making. Now the other item that got a ripple effect buff is C4. With the lack of rocket spam at the endgame, it'll make picking up a stack of C4s even more powerful than ever, especially after its most recent buffs. Now lastly, this reduced rocket spam paves the way for everyone's favorite launcher to return, the guided missile. I don't know how many of you guys remember this item, but people could spam 20 plus of these at the entire map and reign supreme. If it does come back, it'll definitely be less spammy with only 12 rockets at everyone's disposal. Now of course, I did want to point out a workaround to this nerf. If you play duos or squads, each person can obviously carry a supply of 12 rockets. So you could designate 1 or 2 guys as explosive specialists, and then you can just keep feeding them 12 rockets. This of course will take a bit of communication and teamwork, but that's exactly what should be happening already in team-based game modes. And that, as they say, is that. As a self-proclaimed rocket man, this ammo nerf definitely pains me. But the longer I think about it, the more I'm okay with it. Rockets are still an incredibly powerful weapon in any 1v1 fight. I also think this cap on rockets is necessary for the endgame, as I mentioned before. I'm not sure if I agree with the number they landed on just yet, but a cap in general creates way more endgame scenarios instead of everyone shooting their 78 rockets at each other. If anything, I think they should increase the rocket spawn rate. So let me know in the comments if you're for or against this change. Were you a newbie booby that got shell-shocked into oblivion by more skilled players having hordes of rockets? Or were you the full squad of John Wicks, each with double grenade launchers and 50 rockets each, dropping nukes on each and every squad of the match? Regardless, I think we can all agree that a cap of rockets was a needed change, even if it wasn't exactly a crowd pleaser.